4, 3, 2, 1.
With the new season of Ink Master airing tomorrow, I found that there was no better time than now to finally release my ranking of all the seasons. Especially since this is prime real estate with no one else I could find making this list. Well, except for me back when season 14 got rebooted. But that list was kind of, well, trash, and is due for an update. So without further ado, this is my ranking of every season of Ink Master. Before I begin, I need to share the criteria for how I rank the seasons. There are 4 categories I chose, which were all rated out of 10, for a total of 40 points. The first category is the cast. The cast is the most important aspect of any reality TV show, as having an unlikable cast immediately makes a show unwatchable. How good the artists are at tattooing does not affect the ranking, only how fun their personalities and interactions are, as even bad tattoos provide entertainment in the form of comedy. The second category is the elimination tattoos. These are ranked on how unique they are, as seeing the exact same challenge over and over again becomes stale. I ranked each of these individually and then averaged them out for the whole season. The final tattoos are not included in the ranking, because the finales are all equally horrible and unfun to watch, so adding zeros to every average seems counterintuitive. The third category are the flash challenges, which are ranked in the same way. The final category is the format, which basically consists of the theme, whether there's a jury or not, and extra things like the season 13 pardons. Final disclaimer, this is all my opinion, and you do not have to agree with any of the placements. Everyone has different metrics for how they rank the seasons. I know lots of people don't enjoy the drama, real or as fake as it is, and that's fine. I personally love all the drama. I would love to hear all your opinions in the comments. Now, on to the ranking. Number 14. Okay, let's begin with the positives. Season 14 was the big return of Ink Master, following the cancellation due to COVID and the Oliver Peck scandal. As a result, the season features an entirely new panel of judges. Because of this, the producers thought it was appropriate to have all the cast members be returning artists, to keep some level of continuity. I completely agree with this decision, since it allowed my favorite artist ever from the show, Giancarlo, to finally return. It also brought back Angel, Bob, and Hiram from season 13, who all got massively screwed over. Not Jimmy though, which is weird. The rest of the initial cast is alright. If it was just them, I'd probably give the season an 8. The only unlikable people out of them are Holly Marie, who is pretty much an entirely different person from her original season, and Creepy Jason, who spends the entire season whining about how Gian is better than him. Also, by design, the season features the strongest cast in the series. There are barely any bad tattoos produced this season, save for a couple of the weird asks, and every tattoo that goes home is a good tattoo. Even the tattoo that sent the first person home would probably win Tattoo of the Day in any of the first 13 seasons. If what you like most in the show is the quality of the art, this season will be your favorite. Where the season immediately falls apart, though, is with the Master of Chaos. Every episode, a screen falls down from the ceiling with Dave Navarro shouting, "But that's not all!" It's charming for about 10 seconds before you realize that the only reason that this exists is because Benji is as engaging as a wet noodle. Nothing Dave Navarro ever says is actually that big of a twist, save for one exception that we'll get to later. Most of them wouldn't feel out of place in any other season. Like, could Benji really not say, "Oh, by the way, there's a guest judge this week, whose only qualification is that she has an ugly koi tattoo?" The fact that they happen every episode also makes them feel less special. Like, how is it chaotic if you can be sure that the twist will happen at some point every week? If not at the beginning, then you know for sure at the end. At least 2 or 3 of the episodes should have lacked Dave Navarro, so that when he came down it would actually raise the pressure and tension. It also feels that by the latter half of the season they ran out of interesting twists to use. The first have had interesting challenges like tattooing the style of a painter, animal pinups, and new school/realism mashups. And then the second half was tattoo bugs in the throat, tattoo Japanese while there's a guest judge, and tattoo portraits but former jury appears because we want the biggest alliance to have power again. It's just so random and feels like they were throwing as many things as possible to see what would stick, and nothing did. But none of that even comes close to the worst use of the Master of Chaos. In episode 4, 4 previous Ink Masters returned to go head to head with the cast. A fun idea. To be an Ink Master you have to match the skills of an Ink Master. Fast forward half an hour to the elimination, where right before eliminating Holly, Dave Navarro comes down and announces that the 4 Masters have the option to re-enter the game. And in one sentence the entire season is ruined. They leave it off on a cliffhanger as if any of them will decline the offer. But no, of course not. They all return. Even with Anthony just recently getting custody of his kid. Screw the kid, he can be by himself for the next 2 months. It makes all of them come off as massively unlikable. Like, you all already have the title and won the money. DJ twice. Do you really need to do it again and steal someone else's opportunity? And I really hope whatever Ryan is making as a judge is less than $250,000. Because otherwise, the 4 masters got completely scammed. They all had to rejoin the competition, while Ryan just sat comfortably up there, tearing apart their livelihoods. Everything about this decision is just so baffling. You have so many Ink Masters to choose from, and you go with the 3 who are already on Return of the Masters. We already seen how their competition goes, and it plays out in the exact same way it did the first time. Seeing old contestants is always fun, but we don't need to see the exact same person season after season after season. And then the only new master you pick is the most forgettable and least talented from the series, who goes on to suck the joy out of every single episode he appears in. And the worst part about the whole situation is that all the adverts for the season presented it as a redemption for the castmates who couldn't previously win. Bringing in old winners feels like such a bait and switch. Like you really thought your favorite artist would win? Haha, no. Here you go, DJ. You get a 3rd win and a judging spot next season. And to think all this could have been avoided if they just branded the season All-Stars and only brought back people who made it to top 3 before. Also, remove Ryan from the judging panel and put her into the competition. Having a past Ink Master judge in the past Ink Masters Compete season makes no sense. Speaking of judging, the judges this season are so bad. None of them have any charisma and like any sort of chemistry with each other. Benji has no idea what he's talking about and is such a tryhard that he comes off as cringy. Ryan seemingly just hates half the cast and her critiques are so nonsensical. Like when she says the Goya painting makes her feel uncomfortable and that Katie's also makes her feel uncomfortable, which is somehow a bad thing. Mr. Clean is either emotionlessly robotic or unnecessarily angry all the time, and Nico is alright, if not a bit boring. Compared to the previous judges, they just offer no entertainment value, and the fact that there's even 4 at all makes no sense. Ties should not be a thing possible, especially with how we see them broken. This is the only season where I skip the judging. It is that insufferable to watch. Final thing about the season is how bad the Flash challenges were. This season has by far the worst Flash challenges in the entire series. Every single one is a returning challenge, and every single one is also done in teams, which is extremely lame, especially since oftentimes it means one of the teams is at a major disadvantage. At least the season has Gion.
What the fuck, Pon? Dude, I mean, I thought you were gonna pick me. We're homeboys here, dude. Now the other team's gonna pick me. What the fuck?
Number 13. Season 11 suffers one major issue. It has the most boring and forgettable cast in the series. The only even remotely interesting people were Angel, the McKenzie brothers, and Stacy. And once they're gone, all that happens is more comments of Tim being as slow as a sea cucumber at tattooing, Chris's entire team campaigning to get rid of him, Amanda being in the bottom 7 weeks in a row, and Clean's team being completely boring. Half of them also return in a far better season. The cast completely ruins any chance the season had at being enjoyable to watch. I can barely remember anything that happened and I watched it last week. Being in the middle of all the team seasons doesn't help its memorability either. It also has by far the lamest theme of all the team seasons as well. The Clean and Christian rivalry is already so oversaturated in the show as it is, so for this season to be all about them is exhausting. An artist should not be coming back 3 times, let alone 4 times. Neither of them have even won with their several chances, so what gives them the authority to coach other people to victory? With there also only being 2 teams this time, it makes every episode insanely predictable. Oh, Clean's team is in the jury of peers, I wonder who they sent down. Oh, someone from Christian's team? How unexpected! I also just hate the jury of peers in general. It makes every season it's in far worse. All it does is give extra time for the artists to yell at each other about their work, which they already do in the lost scenes. It's especially bad this season since both teams are deluded into thinking their decisions matter at all, and are so obnoxious with their 400 IQ strategy when no matter what, the judges will eliminate whoever they want. There's not really anything else to say about this season. The challenges are okay and the flashes are above average. It's just a lifeless and bland season, with an overall hostile vibe to it due to the coaches, which isn't very fun to watch. I can't even say it had that much potential. If I wanted to watch Clean and Christian fight, I would just watch season 7 or 9.
See, I do watercolors. This is how you do it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm saving this tattoo.
Number 12. Season 8 is the first team season, and as such has by far the worst implementation of it. Like holy hell is it bad. The teams are decided in the first episode by the 2 judges, who are then expected to remain impartial. Yeah, okay, sure. Biased judging has always been an issue with the show, but this theme just cranks it up to 11. It's so obvious after the first episode that these 2 refuse to vote for their own teams, so it leaves Dave as the sole vote every elimination, which isn't great since he's not a tattoo artist. Of course, the producers thought of this, which is why for the first 8 challenges, the teams actually fight against themselves, which defeats the entire point of the teams. No wonder a bunch of cross-team alliances formed. What else did they expect to happen? It also means no matter who wins, they only had to complete half the challenges that a normal Ink Master would have to do. Luckily, the producers also thought of that, which is why the final challenge requires them to complete the challenges they missed. Except that they completed one of the rounds, they don't have to complete the subsequent rounds. So actually, scratch all of that, this format is terrible. Everything about the season ends up suffering because of it as well. The first few flash challenges have the opposing team try to sabotage by either choosing the subject the other team has to make, or assigning teams. That's all fine, but because of the alliances, it causes the teams to lob softballs at each other. The worst example was when Nikki refuses to make Boneface and Gia a team. Could you imagine the train wreck that pair would be? But no, of course we're not allowed to have nice things. That brings us to the cast, which is a mixed bag. On one hand, we have the likes of Eric, Kelly, Kevin Leroy, Sketchy Lawyer, Gia, and of course, Gian, who are all fairly likable. But then you have Ryan, Nikki, and Nate Beavers, who are the most insufferable cast members in the history of the show. Especially Nikki, who is so obnoxious and just downright mean every scene she's in. At least she allowed for the most iconic scene in the series. Season 8 is also when the flash challenges started to become overly ridiculous. Like, I'm not sure how many skills overlap between being able to weld, or creating sand sculptures and tattooing, but just basing it on the things they were able to produce, not a lot. The burning wire one is also really dangerous, even more so than the gunpowder ones. And again, barely anyone was able to produce a good drawing. The flash challenges should not be decided by who can figure out how the medium works the quickest.
Look at me. Do I look like the type of person that excels at manual labor? My hands are tender and doughy.
Number 11. Season 3 introduced the Canvas Jury, which is my personal favorite jury in the series, since it's interesting to see what the people getting tattooed think about theirs and the other people's tattoos. That's where the positives end. This season has far and away the most whiny and annoying cast in the series. All Jimmy does this entire season is whine about Joshua and how he can't do his own style. All Tattoo Baby does is whine about Joshua and get coddled by the judges. All Kyle does is whine about Joshua, then randomly makes up with him for one episode, and then goes right back to whining about him for the rest of the series. All Jason does is whine about Joshua while doing the exact same thing he complains about Joshua doing. All Joey does is... Actually, I'm not sure what Joey does. He's kind of boring the whole time. But I'm pretty sure it has to do with whining about Joshua. And all Joshua does is whine about everyone whining about him. It's so insufferable and gets so old really quickly. The rest of the cast is pretty unremarkable. Except Mystical Mike, who is the highlight of the season for the 2 episodes he features in. Despite that, the producers really liked this season for some reason, since for the next 4 seasons at least one person returned in each cast. And to make up for season 8 not having any returnees, they made sure to stick 2 castmates on the season 9 cast. All of them are more interesting in their other appearances too, so I really think this cast just had no chemistry together. A real shame too, since otherwise this would have been a pretty good season. This is when the challenges started to really become unique and interesting. The flash where they had to design a tattoo for Dave is probably in my top 5 for the series. The elimination where they had a tattoo on the season 2 cast is also my favorite elimination in the series. It's such a neat idea and I can't fathom why they haven't done it again. It would be a great way to reuse old cast members without needing them to hog all the screen time each season. This is in my opinion the last bad season. Everything after this point is pretty good. Although if you can get past the annoying drama in this one, it's pretty good too.
I can't get the spotlight off me. Could possibly because of my obscure philosophy, my good looks, my creative ability. Take your pick.
Number 10. Season 4 is an interesting season. It has one of the strongest Final Fours in the history of the show in Scott, rest in peace, Sausage, Maddie, and Halo, who collectively win all the tattoos of the days. All 4 of them plus Kyle Dunbar are really enjoyable to watch, and they run the season. Unfortunately, you go back even 2 episodes when Melissa and Gentle J were there, and the season immediately looks a lot weaker.
You see how by adding this extra, it's become shitter?
The season just becomes waiting for the rest of the clearly inferior cast to be eliminated, so we can watch the Final 4 battle it out. And while some of them are funny to watch, like Roland, Randy, and Ashley, most of them are either forgettable like King Ruck and Classic Bubba, or completely insufferable like Keith and Gentle J. Also, the cast is really big in general, which leads to so many double eliminations this season, done at random points. Combine that with the second most iconic scene in the series, the Kyle Dunbar fight and subsequent disqualification, requiring a pardon in one episode, the season's pacing is just really off. Season 4 also suffers from having some of the lamest challenges in the series. The first challenge after the convention challenge is to tattoo realistic eyes, and that's followed up by geometric shapes, tribal, and then aquatic tattoos. All incredibly boring. They get better after that, but that's already a third of the season spent on snooze fests. Not helping is that one of the best challenges in the season was wiped from all streaming platforms, making the watching experience of the show significantly worse. The Flash challenges aren't much better. One is literally just to tattoo whatever their canvas wants. That's not a challenge. They do that every episode. And then there's the one where they have to do the exact same thing, except the canvases are nude. It's just unfortunate, really. The last thing about the season I don't really like is the ability for the winner to select someone up for elimination. It's a precursor to the jury of peers, and I'm just not a fan of it. It does finally give the winner of Tattoo of the Day some tangible reward, but I think it adds some unnecessary drama to the show. And again, only 4 people ever win the reward, so it ends up not even being that interesting. The canvas jury also exists in this season, so now a majority of the bottom is made up of people not even voted by the judges.
Sausage, you slippery little wiener. Every time I give him a hard canvas, he slips out of it.
Number 9. Good old Season 1. The only thing holding the first season back is just how old it is. The camera quality isn't as good, the overall tattooing wasn't as strong as it is now, the Golden Skull strategy wasn't a thing yet, and the overall challenges were rather basic. That said, the season still is really charming. Everyone aside from Billy and Josh are really fun to watch. James Vaughn with his southern accent is the clear standout. The Heather banter in episode 2 is also iconic, and shows that even from the start, these were the right judges. The season also isn't very drama heavy with the exception of Affliction, who goes home pretty early. So if you consider that a plus, this is the season for you. I'm glad that a majority of the seasons are ranked higher than season 1, since it showcases how much the series improved. Of course, the season didn't have a live finale, so maybe the series didn't improve that much.
You need to do one thing, become an Ink Master and win $100,000. I didn't come here to make friends, I didn't come here to make buddies. You're my competition and I will destroy you.
Number 8. Season 10 is basically a better version of Season 11 in every conceivable way. The cast still isn't great, but it is better. Josh Payne is obviously great, but no one else really matches his level of charisma, so he doesn't have anyone to really bounce off of, except for the coaches, who end up being the stars of the season. Speaking of the coaches, this is by far the best implementation of them. This is the first time in the series any previous Ink Masters return, and the coaching position is the perfect spot for them. Them never interacting before also gives us something new to watch that no other season provides. Them choosing 3 masters with completely different personalities also helps with their chemistry. And having 3 teams instead of just 2 really adds to the strategy and dynamics. This season forgoes the jury of peers that every season around it had, and instead has something unique with the jury of masters. Having the 3 coaches meet to discuss the worst tattoo means they all have to actually be objective and select the worst tattoo, even if it's from their own team. It actually adds something to the show, and it's a shame the next few seasons just went right back to the jury of peers. The only real negative about it is how obvious it is that the producers wanted each team to have someone in the finale, robbing us of a Jason Elliott master canvas. The challenges this season are also really good. The monochromatic portrait, style mashups, and pixelation tattoos are my personal favorite. Chad Thney allowing his artist to tattoo his leg helps elevate the pixel episode even more. The Flash challenges are equally as good, in my opinion being the last season to really have great flashes. The Stare challenge and the Pains are 2 of my favorite flashes in the series. The coach face-offs are also quite enjoyable, being the last time DJ is fun to see on screen.
Steve just picks designs you can't hate on. He did an American flag. This week he does Jesus. What's next? A pile of puppies?
Number 7. Season 12 is a really weird season. The theme being men versus women is rather juvenile for this tough tattooing show, but if this was their only way of casting more females on the show, then fair enough. The season does have some of my favorite female tattooers in the series, in Laura, Danny, Janelle, and Pony. At the same time, it also has some of my least favorite in Ashman and Alexis, the latter of whom for some reason looks like she's tearing up every time she's on screen. The males are comparatively more forgettable. Aside from Cam, Creepy Jason, and Pawn, they aren't really remarkable. Where the season fails though is in the format. So much time is dedicated to the rotating coaches, and I just don't care about them at all. Sure, it's cool seeing old cast members, and some of them like Nikki are more likable this time around, but they're given simultaneously too much screen time and not enough screen time. Due to rotating each episode, we're not given enough time to get invested in their competition. But of course they're still taking away screen time that should be used on the actual cast. No more is that more evident than in the finale where they take up 80% of the episode. We're not even given any time to interview the cast and they have to rush the final canvas critiques. Also, the pairs they choose are really random, and with the exception of Josh and Nikki, never have any chemistry with each other. I think it has to do with what style each artist specializes in, but I don't really remember Bubba ever doing any surrealism work. Also, due to there only being 1 female Ink Master at the time, the skill levels between the 2 are often not equal in the slightest. Worse is that they exhaust right after the first challenge, so every subsequent female hasn't won. Some haven't even reached the final. Not even all the guys are Ink Masters. Why are we bringing back Jimmy again? man, I really hate that there's only 7 of them as well. Like, you really couldn't get one more pair to make it an even number. Also weird is that they have to work with the opposite gender team. Supposedly it's because they have to know the enemy or whatever, but it just doesn't work and honestly ruins the whole point of the theme. It also leads to weird dialogue where they have to praise the opposite gender and attack their own. My final problem with the coaches is how the winner of each round is actually determined. For some reason, they decided that if someone is eliminated from your team, you lose. I guess that makes sense, since you can't really coach someone in 6 hours to win Tattoo of the Day, but you can coach someone into not royally sucking. 2 issues though. Firstly, one of the girls quits in the first episode screwing Joey over, which is complete BS that they counted that. Secondly, and more importantly, the team seasons have had the track record of suspiciously evening out each week. And this season is no different. So how is it possibly fair for them to screw extra people out of the competition for it? Yeah, so other than that, the season's pretty good.
This really sucks because I'm either gonna do really good that they're gonna think it's me, or I'm gonna do really bad that they're not gonna think it's me. Or they'll think it's me, and then I'm gonna think that they think I'm bad.
Number 6. Season 5, by virtue of being called Rivals, is the most drama-filled season of the show. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I personally absolutely love it. Emily being constantly psychotic, the 2 brothers fighting at every opportunity, Julia telling her canvas to F off in the aftermath thereof, and Joshua being disqualified for smoking weed are all really fun to watch for me. The season also has some of the worst artists in the series, so the critiques, especially during the glue and pinup episodes, are beyond hilarious. Of course, there still are Clean, Joshua, Eric, and Jason to produce good art during the more unique challenges, which are pretty good this season. There's only really 2 issues with the season, and their names are Chris Element and Mark Longnecker. Both of them are some of the least talented and most boring to watch artists to ever make it to top 5. Both should have been eliminated far earlier than they were, especially Chris, who tries to quit every single episode. Chris is such an uncaring artist that he is the sole person to ever ruin the vibe of a wholesome challenge. Like, how do you do that? I'm pretty sure the reason they last so long is because Joshua got disqualified, but even then, Dot and Aaron Ish should have both made it further than them. I know Mark apparently knew Chris Nunez before the show, but that doesn't explain how Chris floated all the way to the end. Also, them being on the show makes this the only season to go down in quality the later into the season you go, since all the funny people are gone. On a further note, Joshua leaving kinda did ruin the season. He was the only artist that matched Clean on a skill and charisma level, so without him the season becomes rather boring and predictable. Eric kinda matches his skill level, but he's basically just wallpaper the whole season. Obviously Jason ends up winning, which is a rather BS ending, but I think for both Clean and the show it was the better outcome. Because really, who else would they have chosen to return in season 7? It sure as hell wasn't gonna be Eric.
Aaron's too busy flirting with his canvas to put a decent tattoo on her arm. He's doing a blue whirlpool. It looks like smattered.
Number 5. Season 9 is the most unique season of the show, in that it's the only team season where the teams actually win together. It's arguably not even the same show and could have been a spin-off, but it's called Season 9, so we're here. I think the pair format is alright, but a lot of the teams consist of one strong member and one member who brings them down, which isn't great. It kind of brings down the title along with it, like if Doom Kitten became Ink Master because Aaron carried him, it's pretty BS. But it also means Aaron didn't stand a chance because Doom was her partner. I wish we got to see her and a couple of the other new artists on a solo season to see how they would really stack up. The challenges also rarely allow either member to shine, since most are tag team tattoos, which I guess makes sense. But I think they should have sprinkled in more of the challenges where both members had a tattoo at the same time. And they definitely should have removed the challenges where one person didn't have the tattoo at all. The other issue with the pair format is that it doubles the amount of artists that a normal season has. That'd be fine, but the show doesn't spread the screen time out evenly to account for the increased cast. Most teams only have chemistry with each other and sometimes one other team, and some only have one member who gets any screen time. The worst examples are Nolan and Marvin, who are paired with two of the most iconic characters from the series. I don't even think Marvin gets a single confessional after his first team one with Tommy. Oh, and then there's Classic Trilogy, who have no chemistry with anyone at all, and just whine the entire time about others supposedly cheating. The season also uses the stippled entrances from season 7, likely due to them realizing they can't accommodate a cast of 30 plus artists living with them. The format is both improved and worsened from last time. I think they realized how unfair the format was, so they gave them extra disadvantages, like making the challenge their week being the one that originally sent them home. They also ordered them based on how far they went last time, instead of in reverse order, which makes a lot more sense. Unfortunately, due to this, it means the first 5 returning vets are really lame. Last time we got Clean, Sarah, James Vaughn. This time we get Bubba Irwin. King Ruck, Made Rich, and Lalo. And aside from Bubba, who actually spent time improving, they all do as well as you would expect. Halfway into the season, we finally start getting the likes of Christian, Matt, Tommy, and Clean, and they really elevate the season. Of course, being a team season, they had to bring someone with them, which brings the season right back into unfair territory. Why do Nolan, Marvin, Katie, and Aaron get to mooch off their partner's past skill? That being said, all the weaker artists they bring in are a lot more interesting to watch compared to their first season, especially Bubba, who is up there with Angel for being the most improved artist in the series. Him winning is probably one of the more satisfying moments in the show, though I'm not sure if that's because I was really rooting for him, or if I just didn't want someone who came in halfway through the show to win.
He is going crazy. That color palette makes no sense whatsoever.
Don't be nervous. It's a good day at House of Monkey.
We were supposed to have a nice amount of black and a simple color palette. We didn't need all this blue. Lalo, you had one job. The colors, man.
Number 4. Season 2 is when Eekmaster really became Eekmaster. This season introduced the Golden Skulls, which is the best addition the show ever had. It took what was a regular tattoo competition and turned it into a reality TV show, with strategy and drama. K-Kutta perfectly showcases its potential, though he's not particularly the best artist himself. Season 2 features the best original cast in the series, with even the first person sent home being iconic. Everyone this season is likable, except maybe Sebastian, and there's never a dull episode. The only real negative I can point out is Jamie No Ink going home for having no tattoos, which is the worst scene in the entire show. Like Season 1, the challenges this season are pretty basic, though there are some standouts, like the Star Wars challenge and the one where they had to tattoo good and evil faces. The Flash challenges, on the other hand, are a vast improvement. Each is unique and engaging to watch, and with the exception of the haircutting one, offers incredible art. This is also the first time Coney Island showed up, which are always some of the better Flash challenges. Some of my personal favorite moments from this season are the Sarah breakdown, the insane canvas Nick got, every scene Clint is in, rest in peace, every time Sebastian gets a canvas he wants, and then they end up complaining to him the whole time, Jesse trying to put googly eyes into everything, and of course everything that happened to CJ.
Oh man, that right though.
It's bad.
And I got 6 more hours of this?
I'm screwed.
No.
Number 3. Season 13 was the final season before the reboot, and I must say it is a mighty shame they couldn't continue off of this. The series finally started picking back up again, giving us the best cast we've seen in years, and by far the best challenges the show has ever thought of. They also finally abandoned the coaches, which were really sucking the joy out of the past few seasons. The season still has a team format, but without the coaches it doesn't really mean anything, and is more like just a built-in alliance. Each team has a returning artist who acts as their de facto captain, but it's not really official. Each of the 4 returns from one of the 2 weakest casts, but somehow managed to actually shine this season. Jason especially gets the shine, taking a page out of Josh's playbook, acting as the obnoxious pot stirrer. Jimmy also gets to be more enjoyable, with his funny voices he does that piss Angel off to a comical degree. Having 4 teams, or maybe no coaches, also means they finally got rid of the desire to even out the teams, letting each member get as far as their skill would allow. The teams this season also have the best chemistry out of all the seasons. Team West is the strongest team, who end up on the outside of the 2-team alliance, requiring them to reluctantly team up with the South. Team East is the weakest team, only able to survive by Jimmy and their alliance for the Midwest. Team Midwest is the most dysfunctional team due to Gerald, and ends up eating themselves alive. And Team South is the weak but obnoxious team that everyone hates, acting as Team West's safeguard. Of course, the season is down at number 3, and the reason for that is this season has some of the worst Flash challenges in the entire series. All but one of them is to take a small object to make a big image, and there's really not that big of a difference between putting postcards, bread, candy, or little diamond cups on a wall. And the contestants act so surprised every single time. It's so stupid. You've seen this exact challenge 8 times before. At least the last Flash is one of my favorites in the entire series. Having no conclusion is also kind of a bummer, especially considering the absolutely ridiculous task that they were asked to do, but it does at least mean the season ended on a high note. And the YouTube pseudo finale is chill and honestly how future endings should be structured. We don't need big flashy live shows. Just show the final canvases, critique the work, and interview the past contestants. The final aspect of the season are the Pardons, which I think are a neutral addition to the show. The way they're implemented into this season isn't great, but the actual idea isn't horrible. Lots of shows have pardons, and some of the earlier seasons would have benefited from having it. It allows them to actually send home the worst tattoo of the day instead of looking at the report cards and sending home someone who didn't do as bad. The only issue with them is that the season wasn't really built to have them. The cast is already larger than normal, so throwing in 3 pardons without increasing the episode count at all leads to some awkward pacing, with multiple double eliminations at random and frankly unfair times. Also, 2/3 of the pardons are used on returning castmates, which is bullcrap. And the one that isn't is used right before the penultimate episode, which makes it feel like they used it out of obligation. I'm sure if the show continued as planned, the pardons would have been a permanent feature, so they could have improved. It's hard to know really.
I'm just over here minding my own business, trying to boost up the morale of my team. Everything I do pisses off Angel.
Number 2. Season 6 has what I consider to be the best theme in the entire series. All the other themes, Rivals, Battle of the Sexes, All-Stars, and Turf War, are all generic themes that you can find in any other random TV show or sport. Master vs. Apprentice, on the other hand, is a theme that can only be used in a tattoo competition show, due to being inherently related to tattooing. It's also just such a wholesome format. Instead of a theme based on hostility and division, it's based on unity, and you can tell all the pairs really care about each other and want to see each other in the finale. The cast this season is also pretty great. This is the first season where any alliances form, and each of the final 3 is from a different alliance, which is cool, and adds to the tension of the finale, which obviously the show fails to capitalize on, but I digress. It also has the first showmance of the series in Tyler and Marissa, which is a plus if you're a fan of those. This season does feature probably the worst Ike Master in the series, but at least he's funny and his interactions with his apprentice are fun to watch. The elimination and flash challenges are pretty good this season, with the Down Syndrome episode being my personal favorite challenge in the entire series. This is also the first season to really start having unique elimination tattoos, like the stained glass, trash polka, heart morphs, painting replications, illusions, animal print, and best of all, the tattoo marathon, which would become a staple for the series. It's also the first season that allowed the Canvas jury to send a representative to explain why they selected a tattoo for the bottom. This is a stark improvement, since before the judges just had to guess why the jury didn't like the tattoo. It also lets the Canvas defend or attack the artist, which is always great to see. Why the Canvas jury was retired after the next season is beyond me, since it was always one of my favorite parts of the show. With all that said, the only thing really keeping the season from the top spot is just how good the next season is.
That's bull to the highest level of bull. I'm getting sent home because this canvas with the IQ of a toddler couldn't agree to a design, picked apart my design, couldn't take the tattoo. I'm pissed the off.
Number 1. Season 7 is peak Ink Master. Everything you could want from the show is featured in this season. Great tattoos, great flash challenges, a phenomenal all-star cast, and an engaging format, which constantly changes the dynamics of the house. Okay, let's slow down. The cast this season is made up of half newbies and half returning vets. With the exception of St. Mark, who was chosen because season 6 hadn't wrapped up filming, all the vets originally placed 5th and above, making this the most stacked cast until season 14. Most of the newbies are picked up really early, but in spite of that, they still leave a big impact while they're there. Even Corey, who lasts a single episode, is funny with his interactions with St. Mark. Chris is also a standout for the 2 episodes he appears in, being the most chaotic neutral presence in the show. But of course, the main draw for the season is how it connects to the rest of the series. Being right in the middle of the series means it's not only great to watch in order, but also serves as a great first season to jump off from, sharing storylines from every season. The best examples being the conclusion of the Maddie and Sausage rivalry in the greatest head-to-head battle in the history of the show, and the start of the Clean and Christian rivalry, which becomes the focus of an entire season. This is also the debut of Anthony and Christian, who are my second and third favorite artists respectively, and watching them defeat every veteran one by one while being at a disadvantage is extremely satisfying. Anthony himself is the best underdog story in the series, being a younger self-taught tattoo artist who rarely concerns himself with the drama of the show. If the cast wasn't enough to make this the best season, then the challenges certainly are. Every single one is unique and interesting to watch, and play out the cast perfectly. The standouts include Covering Hate Tattoos, The Good and Evil Wings, and the surrealistic woman faces, which itself leads to one of the funniest interactions in the series. The Flash challenges are even better, being the best in the series. The shadows made out of trash, the fingerprints, the Coney Island contortionists, the pushpins, and the power washing being my personal favorite. The only flaw I can see someone having with this season is the stippled entrances with the vets, due to how completely unfair it is. Adding to the unfairness, each of the vets also gets to assign the challenges, which is one of the main reasons this season has such good elimination tattoos. While yes, this format is BS, I think it works this season because 1. None of the vets passed clean and end up making the final. In fact, the season as a whole has a perfect boot order. 2. The smaller cast means each person is able to receive more screen time. And 3. A normal format wouldn't have managed to create the same tension and satisfaction this one did. A regular format wouldn't have allowed for the turning of the tables challenge, where Anthony and Christian got to finally screw over the vets. This is where season 9 and 14 failed. Their stippled cast didn't add anything of value to the viewing experience, and actually detracted from it. Finally, season 7 is also great for only having 13 episodes. A lot of the other seasons feel like they drag on too long, but this one is the perfect length. It lets each artist and challenge be used to their max potential without anything overstaying its welcome. I hope they can go back to having 13 episodes in the future. With the new season having 15 contestants, 13 would be the perfect number of episodes for it, but that would make too much sense for this series. Okay, so in the time it took me to make this video, season 15 already aired like 4 episodes. So here's some unscripted rambling about it. They literally took everything from my 3 least favorite seasons and shoved it into one season. How do you do that? You had the perfect idea and you ruined it. Anyway, back to the actual video.
Clayton and St. Mark are spray painting buttholes all day long, and they're laughing their ass off. I'm taking this serious. If this ass clown wins the challenge, I will punch everybody in the face right now.
And that's the list. Did you agree with the placements, or do you want me hanged for my absolutely horrid takes? Whatever you think, I'd love to hear it in the comments. And until next time, have a nice weekend.